Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shishma Sarila, consulting homeopath at Fidelis Homeopathy. As you all know that we are doing a series of fibroids. So here today we are going to discuss about the surgical treatment option for fibroid, which is nothing but myomectomy. And in this topic we are going to cover what are the conditions needed for myomectomy, what are the contraindications for myomectomy, what are the benefits of myomectomy, what are the risk factors for myomectomy, what are the types of myomectomy, what sort of fibroids can be removed through myomectomy, and what is the best treatment option for fibroids. So let's dive into the topic. What is myomectomy? Myomectomy is removal of the fibroids while retaining the uterus. It is very important to remember that in hysterectomy you are going to remove the uterus, but in myomectomy we are going to only target the fibroids and remove the fibroid procedure so that the women can potentially become pregnant in the future. So this is the main reason for myomectomy. What are the conditions for myomectomy? For myomectomy to be conducted, you need certain conditions. First is symptomatic uterine fibroids. What do you mean by symptomatic uterine fibroids? By symptomatic uterine fibroids, certain section of people, even though they have fibroids, they might not have a symptomatology of the fibroid, but certain section of people do have symptoms like prolonged bleeding or bleeding occurring every 15 days or every 10 days, too much of bleeding, passing of larger clots or clots as such, back pain, dragging kind or bearing kind of pain in the uterine region. You might be experiencing anemic symptoms where after you sit for a longer period of time and then you get up, you feel vertigo or you feel dizzy. There is a lot of hair fall, your skin becomes pale, your nails are very brittle, they break off very easily, you don't have energy to do anything. All of these are the symptoms of fibroids. If you're having any of these symptoms, you can get this myomectomy done. Apart from this, if you have desire for future pregnancy, which is the main concept of the myomectomy introduction, that is, if you want to get pregnant, even though if you have fibroids, after the removal of fibroids, if you have a desire to get pregnant, you can get pregnant. That is the main point in this myomectomy. Apart from that, infertility. If there is any fibroid which is blocking the fallopian tube or which is blocking the uterine cavity so that the baby is not growing, by their removal you can improve your fertility rates. And then if you're having any sort of urinary or constipation problems, if you take this as the uterus and this is the urinary bladder, if the fibroid is falling on the urinary bladder, it can create pressure symptoms where you feel an urge to urinate frequently. You might be having recurrent UTI, that is urinary tract infections. You can have pain during urination. All of these problems. Along with that, if this is the uterus and this is the backside of the uterus and this is the rectum and the fibroid is falling on the rectum, it can create rectal symptoms. It can create constipation, pain during stool, and all of these symptoms. If you're having any of these symptoms, also you can get myomectomy. Apart from that, myomectomy is very, very useful for submucosal and intramucosal fibroids. What are submucosal fibroids and what are intramural fibroids? We have already done a detailed topic on the fibroids, types of it, locations of it, and the best treatment options. You can check it. The link will be provided in the description box. Apart from this, as we've already discussed in the previous video, which is UAE, which is uterine artery embolization, we have discussed that UAE is not for larger fibroids, but in this myomectomy, even if you're suffering from a larger fibroid or numerous amounts of fibroids, also myomectomy can be performed. Now let us see the contraindications for myomectomy. Contraindications for myomectomy can be divided into two types. One is absolute contraindication, where you should not be doing myomectomy, and the second one is called as a relative contraindication, where it depends on the discretion of the surgeon who is performing it, or it depends upon the discretion of the gynecologist or the person who is performing it. So first, absolute contradiction is pregnancy. You cannot perform a myomectomy while you're pregnant. Second one, if you have no desire for future fertility, that means you've already, you have planned certain amount of babies, like you have 2 babies, 3 babies, you've already finished that phase where you want to experience motherhood, and now you have fibroids and you have no desire for future pregnancy, then it is better option to go for hysterectomy than myomectomy according to your gynecologist or according to allopathic doctors. They would prefer you with a hysterectomy. Then the third one is suspected endometrial cancer. If you're someone who is suffering from carcinoma or cancerous conditions, then myomectomy is not for you. Then coming into the relative contraindications. First relative contraindication is large and numerous myomas. If the size of the leiomyoma, which is the other name for fibroid, is very big, or if there are very multiple n number of fibroids, it depends upon the discretion of the person who is performing the surgery to do it or to not do it. The second one is advanced PID, which is pelvic inflammatory disease. It is an absolute no in UAE, which is uterine artery embolization, whereas it is in the relative contraindication in myomectomy. If you're someone who's suffering from PID and it is like absolutely in a bad stage, then your gynecologist might not suggest you for a myomectomy. The third one is uterine size larger than 16 weeks. If you're pregnant and your uterine size or you have passed the 16-week duration, then myomectomy is not for you. It's a contraindication. Coagulopathy disorders. What do you mean by coagulopathy disorders? If you're having coagulation disorders, if you're someone who has problem clotting the blood, or you're having bleeding time and clotting time are really very slow, then you have to first get treated for that coagulation problem and then go for a myomectomy, because after surgery, if you have a bleeding problem, the blood will start to ooze really fast and you will lose a lot of blood. You should be getting a blood transfusion after that. Fibroids in lower uterine segment and myomectomy during cesarean section. This is something that I need to explain with the help of a diagram. So let's just check it. As you can see here in the picture, this is the uterus, this is the cervix and the vaginal part. If you are having any sort of fibroid which is blocking the cervical or the vaginal region, okay, it usually blocks the cervical region, which is called as cervical leiomyomas or cervical fibroids. So what happens is that if you are someone who is pregnant and has a cervical leiomyoma or a fibroid which is blocking the cervical canal, you cannot do a normal NVD, which is normal vaginal delivery. So vaginal delivery is not possible. You have to get a C-section done. And during the C-section, after the removal of the baby, they can remove the fibroid also. So this depends upon the discretion of the surgeon who is performing it. So if you are having fibroid near the cervical region, you are absolutely not fit for normal vaginal delivery. So you have to get a C-section, and while the C-section is being performed, they can remove the fibroid as well. These are some of the relative contraindications for myomectomy. Now coming into the tests. For example, if you are someone who is opting for myomectomy, what are certain tests that need to be done prior to the myomectomy procedure? The first one being CBP. CBP means complete blood picture. In complete blood picture, you will be knowing if you have any sort of infection lying inside your body, where the neutrophils can rise, the lymphocytes can rise, the eosinophils can rise, and also how is your blood count. That is also very important for performing the surgery. So all of this will be known by CBP. Other than that, you need a pelvic ultrasound, wherein you will be knowing where the fibroid is, how it is located, where it is located, does it have a stalk or not. All of this we will be knowing by pelvic ultrasound. Apart from that, to have deeper into that fibroid, you should get a MRI done, so that you will be able to know the dimensions of the fibroid in a much deeper aspect, how it is located, how it is stalked, and all of this data can be given through an MRI scan. Apart from that, depending upon the type of fibroid that you're suffering, depending upon your symptomatologist, we can suggest hysterosonography or saline hysteroscopy. They will be flushing saline water into the uterus, and by viewing that, the saline water will give a proper shape to the uterine cavity, so we can view the uterine cavity in a better manner, especially for submucosal fibroids. Apart from that, we can also do a hysterosalpingography. What is hysterosalpingography? Here we will be injecting a dye where it will go to the fallopian tubes as well. So you will be able to see if there is any problem or blockage in the fallopian tubes because of any sort of fibroid. That is why you're not able to conceive. So we will be knowing about if there is any fertility issue because of this fibroid, we will be able to know in the hysterosalpingography. Apart from that, there's another procedure called as hysteroscopy, where a hysteroscope will be inserted into a vaginal cavity to view the inside of the uterus. So this is also one of the tests. Apart from this, especially if you're married, you need to get a pregnancy test done before performing this myomectomy. It is very, very important, as it is an absolute contradiction to myomectomy procedure. Now let us know about the types of myomectomy. The first type is called as abdominal myomectomy or open myomectomy, and the second one is called as laparoscopic myomectomy. The third one is called as robotic myomectomy, and the fourth one is called as hysteroscopic myomectomy. Let's go deep into the topic about these types of myomectomy to know what are the uses, when they should be performed, and what are their side effects. The first procedure is called as abdominal myomectomy. As you can see here in the picture, it's much clearer. Here indicated, what is indicated in, it's indicated if you're having n number of fibroids, that is numerous fibroids, and also the fibroids are large. If you're having larger fibroids and more number of fibroids, they will be giving you an incision in the abdomen, and from there on they will be removing the fibroids through this procedure, which is called as abdominal myomectomy. problem with this procedure is that if you're having, keloid formation, tendency to keloid formation, or if you're having tendency to infection where you, because your WBC count is very low, but if you're having leukopenia, if you're having any sort of diabetes, or if you're suffering from kidney or liver disorders, this might not be the best option, because there will be a problem in healing, and also the hospital time after the procedure has been done also is a little bit more than laparoscopic or robotic. So if you're preferring this, remember that this has its side effects attached to it. The next procedure is called as laparoscopic myomectomy. In this laparoscopic myomectomy, as you all know, the procedure, there will be inserting a laparoscope through a small puncture in the abdomen, and they will be removing the fibroid. It is minimally invasive in nature, but it cannot be performed if you are having n number of fibroids or if you are having larger fibroids. Only abdominal myomectomy can be doing that, but here in laparoscopic myomectomy, we can only perform it for moderately sized fibroids, and the hospital time for this is a little low compared to the abdominal myomectomy. Next, coming into the robotic assisted myomectomy, this is almost just like your laparoscopic myomectomy, but the surgeon or the person who is doing it will be using robotic hands to perform this myomectomy procedure. Here, what are the problems with it is, if you're having a larger fibroid, you cannot undergo this process, and also if you're having n number of fibroids also, this process is not that useful. You should better go for abdominal myomectomy rather than a robotic or a laparoscopic, because they both treat only moderate sized fibroids. The next type of fibroid is called as hysteroscopic myomectomy. What is hysteroscopic myomectomy? Remember, if you're having fibroids inside the uterine cavity, which is called as submucosal fibroids, then what they will be doing is, they will be inserting a hysteroscope into the vagina region, to the uterus, so that they can view the inside of the cavity of the uterus. And if this submucosal fibroid is very small or very moderate in size, where you can pass it through the vagina, then they will be performing a surgery to remove that fibroid. So this cannot be performed in youngsters or in teenagers or in people who haven't yet married. So this can only be performed in people who are already married. So this is one of the backdrop of hysteroscopic myomectomy. And also the other backdrop is, it should only be a submucosal fibroid, or it should only be a fibroid which is moderate in size for this surgery to be performed. It is most useful in submucosal fibroids, but the fibroid size should be very small. Next, coming into the benefits of myomectomy. What are the benefits that you will take away, what are the benefits that you will have if you are having a myomectomy? The first benefit, the reason for this is to preserve the uterus for future pregnancies. So you can have that option. The second option is, the symptoms or the pressure symptoms that are caused by the fibroids can decrease, and also the hospital time is relatively less compared to hysterectomy, and also it can improve the fertility rate. How can it improve fertility rate? If the fibroid is blocking this fallopian tube, by removal of the fibroid from the fallopian tubes, there is a nice way for the sperm to reach the ovum and to get fertilized, so your fertility rate is increased with this procedure. Now coming into the risks that are associated with this myomectomy. Remember, any treatment option that you're looking for, you should always weigh the amount of benefits that you're receiving and also the risks that are associated with it. If the benefits outweigh the risks, then the treatment option is considered better. But if the risks outweigh the benefits, then the treatment option is considered poor. So let us see that how many risks are there in this myomectomy. The first risk is excessive bleeding. So why do we get excessive bleeding after myomectomy? The reason being that the fibroid is always growing on the blood vessels, or from the nutrition and the blood that is receiving from the blood vessels, right? And you're suddenly removing this fibroid, which can damage the vessels and cause excessive bleeding. And it can cause blood transfusion, or it can cause a need for this blood transfusion to occur. First thing. And the second thing being infection. If you're someone who is having any sort of systemic diseases, it can be diabetes, it can be hypertension, it can be, poor blood quality, anemic conditions, leukocytosis or leukopenia, any sort of these allergic reactions, also increase in IgE levels also, you will not be able to heal properly like a healthy person because of these situations. And also in order to not get an infection, they will be giving you antibiotics, and antibiotics should be only taken with the proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole, rabdiprazole, or esomeprazole. All of this together can disrupt the gut bacteria or the gut flora, and disruption of this gut flora can also trigger some certain things which can cause hormonal imbalance, and also which can trigger this fibroids. This gut bacteria connection with the fibroids, or the hormonal disruption connection with the fibroids, has already been explained. If you want to check that video, we will be providing a link in the description box. Do check it out. And blood clots, this is a potential risk. You have to understand that while removing the fibroid, if it is not performed properly or in certain conditions, it can form blood clots in the body. This blood clots, if they are very small, they will be disrupted or they can be degenerated and they can be mixed with the blood, but certain blood clots will not be. And if this blood clot is traveling somewhere and getting stuck near an organ, that organ might not be receiving a proper blood supply. It can go into necrosis and death of the tissue, leading to complications, sepsis complications in the body. So blood clots are a very potential risk factors for this myomectomy. Next, damage to nearby organs. If the surgery is not being performed properly, it can lead to damage of the organs which are nearby. Adhesions are another problem. If the surgery is not performed properly, or if you're having any sort of trigger reactions to it, the body can form adhesions. It is the body's mechanism to stop the infection. For example, if you are not healing properly, the infection is spreading from the uterus or the location of that fibroid removal to the other parts, the body will start to adhere it or to stick a plaster to it. Whenever it is sticking a plaster to it, you will not be able to get pregnant properly, or because that uterus can be stuck to the intestines, or it can get stuck to the urinary bladder, or the fallopian tubes can be closed because of the adhesions, and a lot of adhesions means decrease in fertility rate and also the chances of you being pregnant. Next, coming to the anesthesia complications. If you're having anesthesia problems, if the dosage is too much or too low, it can cause complications in the body. So all of these are also risks for myomectomy. Next, coming into the other risk factors, the other one being uterine rupture and further pregnancies or future pregnancies. See, we are doing this myomectomy process so as to retain the uterus, right? But while doing the laparoscopic part, or it can be abdominal myomectomy, the uterus will be harmed because there will be a puncture in the uterus or the incision in the uterine wall. And if it is not healing properly, or even after healing, if it is a weak wall and you're getting pregnant, the uterus will expand and it can tear apart, and that tearing can cause the fluid to release inside the body. It can cause peritonitis, it can cause severe septicemia conditions. That is also a probable, a strong risk factor for this myomectomy. And the other one is recurrency of fibroids. This is something that everybody should understand. No matter how many times you remove the fibroid, if you are having a tendency for fibroids, wherein it can be a genetic tendency, it can be hormonal tendency, it can be any other tendency causes related to the fibroids, you are getting fibroids frequently, myomectomy cannot be the answer, because myomectomy will cause fibroids again to occur if you are having hormonal disruption. You need a medication which will not cause this recurrency of the fibroid. So fibroid recurrence is one of the major risks apart from uterine rupture, adhesions, and extreme blood loss. And then hysterectomy. What is hysterectomy doing in the risk factors? For example, if you're having multiple myoma, multiple leiomyomas, that is multiple fibroids, and there is multiple times this myomectomy is being performed, then the doctor will advise you to go for hysterectomy apart from myomectomy. Next, coming into the lifelong complications of myomectomy, the first being chronic pelvic pain. Because you're disrupting the blood flow of the fibroid, is suddenly taking off the fibroid, it can cause chronic pelvic pain in the body, and if it is not performed properly, it can lead into infertility and pregnancy complications like rupture of the uterus. It can cause scar tissue formation and adhesions. It can cause placenta accreta and postpartum hemorrhage, which is very, very important if you're planning for future pregnancy, because placenta accreta is a condition where the placenta is deep inside the uterine wall. It's not coming after the delivery also. That can be caused because of myomectomy. And also postpartum hemorrhage, which is also a complication, can be caused, which is too much of bleeding after your delivery, can be because of this myomectomy procedure. Coming to the homeopathic part of treating this leiomyomas or the so-called fibroids. Why should you opt for homeopathy? See, remember, there are potential risk factors, right? And there are certain conditions where you cannot perform this myomectomy. contraindications, and also the recurrency rate is very important. Rupture during pregnancy is also important. Excessive bleeding is important, and if there is excessive bleeding and if there is infection associated with it, that is also important. If you're someone who's suffering from systemic diseases, it can be diabetes, it can be any other diseases, and you're having fibroids and you cannot do a myomectomy, or if you have done myomectomy and you're again having fibroids, or if you're scared of surgery and you're having this fibroids, or you're scared of the potential risk factors, as you should be because of this myomectomy process, homeopathy is the answer for all of this. Here, it is utterly safe to use, it's effective. We have good number of cases where we have decreased the size of the fibroid, the patients are healthy. The rate of success is really good. And also, the third thing being, there is no surgical process going on. By giving the medication, we are shrinking the fibroid first thing. We're decreasing the recurrency rate so that after taking homeopathic medication, the recurrency rate compared to the allopathic form of treatment, it can be surgery or hormonal pills, in homeopathy it is very low. That is, the recurrency rate is very less. And apart from that, we are balancing the hormones. By balancing the hormones, what happens? There is no further recurrence. In the allopathic form of treatment, there is no proper medication to the hormonal imbalance, or they cannot balance the hormones. But in homeopathic form of treatment, we can balance the hormones. We can, give medication so that your fibroid will shrink. There is healthier blood. Your blood quality is improved. Your muscle quality is improved, and also not only that, it will prevent further recurrences and also regulate the menstrual cycle. That is, prolonged bleeding or excessive bleeding can be controlled through homeopathic medications. It's holistic in nature, and also it can prevent further recurrences, relieve the certain symptoms, and cure your disease. So opt for homeopathy if you are suffering from fibroid. Next, coming into the precautionary part, see, if you're someone who just thinks that we might get a fibroid, or if you're someone who's experiencing fibroid and do not want it to grow, or if you're someone who has got a surgery done for fibroid and you do not want a recurrence of the fibroid, there are some of the factors that you should keep in mind, some of the precautions that you should keep in mind. Please avoid red meat. Or what are the forms of red meat? First being mutton, the second being lamb, the third being beef, and the fourth being pork. Any sort of substitutes of these are also red meat. So please do not consume red meat, and do not consume phytoestrogens, that is soy products. You can be susceptible to it, you just do not know it, or some people are susceptible to it. So please decrease the amount of soy products or completely banish the soy products from your daily intake. If you take this as a plate, a round plate, divide it into four parts, the first being the vegetables and the fiber part, the second 2 by 4 being the handful of nuts and seeds for healthy fats, and the other part being the proteins, wherein you can eat fish, you can eat chicken, you can eat paneer, you can eat tofu, you can eat lentils for your protein, and the other 1 by 4 remaining part should be your carbohydrates. It can be a staple, it can be a bread, it can be rice, it can be roti, anything that your staple is. So do have a dietary restriction. Second one, workouts. If you're having a fibroid which is very low near the cervical region, avoid cardio workouts and avoid heavy lifting. You can do pranayama, meditation, yoga, breathing exercise to control your stress and also for working out. The third thing is sleep pattern. Please remember that women of reproductive age need at least 9 hours of sleep. Try to sleep before 10 p.m. That can cause out this hormonal imbalance to slowly stop, and hormonal balance will start appearing again in your body, and you will be healthy if you sleep up before 10 p.m. and wake up before 5 or 6 p.m. Please do reduce all of these things that we have told, that is red meat and also soy products. Along with that, please make sure that you do not consume any sort of alcohol also. Take all of these precautions into consideration and do follow this so that your fibroids will not increase in size, or you might not get fibroids. Coming to the neglect part, what happens if you neglect fibroids? The fibroids can grow in size, it can become really big, like the size of a melon, and then you have to get a hysterectomy done. And if you're planning for pregnancy, number of fibroids are really matters, because it can cause abortions or miscarriages. And then if the fibroid is associated with hormonal disruption, it can cause endometriosis or adenomyosis and other PCOD complications as well. And also it can cause or have a bad prognosis where you're losing a lot of blood and you might need or go into a stage where you might need a blood transfusion. So please do take these things into consideration and do consult a doctor as soon as possible. Do not neglect your fibroid. If you're viewing this video, if you're someone who's suffering from fibroids or any other female reproductive organ diseases, Fiticus Homeopathy is the answer. Here we have two kinds of consultation options, the one being online consultation and in-person or offline consultation. If you're staying near the nearest branch of Fiticus, you can come and consult us in person. If you're staying far away from us, you can consult us online through audio consultation option or through the video consultation option. After the consultation has been finished, we will ask you for needed investigations. If you have already done the investigations, you can share it with us. After doctor consultation and case taking, especially to the online clients, medicines will be door delivered to you. If you're staying in India, it can take 3 to 4 business days. If you're staying in USA, it can take 3 to 5 business days. Apart from that, anywhere across the globe, it can take 4 to 8 business days for our medicines to reach your doorstep. If you want to contact us, you can call us on this number, WhatsApp us, or message us. If you want to know more about Fiticus Homeopathy, you can check our website www.fiticus.com. If you're someone who is suffering from fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, PCOD, or if you're suffering from dysmenorrhea or any sort of female reproductive organ diseases, you can count on Fiticus Homeopathy, because Fiticus Homeopathy stands for highest chance of health. Here we are following three basic principles. The one being highest success rate. We are already treating these kinds of cases and we have really good success rate in them. The second one being the transparent treatment. Here there is no gray area between the patient and the doctor. The prognosis of your case will be clearly explained to you. And the third one being the personal care. And personal care here at Fiticus is top notch. Here we will be busting all your myths, we will be educating you on all your queries, and also we will be advising you on what to do and what not to do, like the precautions. So if you want to choose cure, if you want to choose health, choose Fiticus Homeopathy. Thank you.